You're a woman of faith in midlife, and you know you've been hearing God's voice for years, whispering, trying to give you direction, but you've been so busy, you haven't been able to listen so deeply. Or maybe you know you're calling, but you're not doing it because you really just think life is just too out of control right now. I just can't fit it in. You want to get to a place where you can hear God's voice and be faithful, but you're wondering where to start. My name's Aris Charles, and I'm a life purpose coach, and I help Christian women in midlife to joyfully pursue their God-given purpose so they can live with more passion, confidence, and impact. And as a coach, over the years, I've really noticed that something that happens a lot is people tend to separate the practical from the spiritual in their life. But the practical things affect the spiritual, and the spiritual things affect the practical. And when you blend those two pieces together, that helps you to more effectively do God's will in your life as well as walk in God's purposes. And in my last video, I talked about ways that you would focus on your inner life to be able to have priorities that would help you to hear God's voice and to walk more effectively in your purpose. But our outer life, even if our inner life seems to be pretty on track, can really hinder us moving forward or support us moving forward in our purposes. And so today I'd like to share some areas of your outer life that you can focus on to be able to be better prepared to step into your calling and move forward more effectively in it. Your purpose does spring out of who you are as a person, and so you can do it in simple ways, even if you're not doing a specific calling that God has given you. Just your everyday interactions with people, you can be walking in purpose. And we have purpose in His kingdom, purpose in the different areas of our life, as well as our specific calling. But when we get around to thinking about our specific calling, we really have to be effective in the way that we move forward. And laying the foundations to set us up for that is really going to help us not to have as many obstacles once we start. So the spiritual has to meet the practical, the internal has to meet the external, and purposeful living is the way to be able to do that. And purposeful living has two meanings. Number one is to be intentional, and number two is to do everything with purpose in mind. So the purpose of that particular action, but also with your overall purpose in life in mind, and making sure that all the things are supporting you moving towards that. Not only towards a specific calling, but just towards God's vision for you as a person, because that's going to impact you being able to carry out your purpose. And there's three areas that are important to focus on in your outer life to better prepare you for your calling. And the first one is your body, because we are told that our body is the temple of the Spirit, and we're to honor God with our body. And in addition to making sure we're staying away from things that might harm our body or not be what God would call us to do with our body, we also have to focus on caring for it so that as the vehicle that carries out your purpose, it's able to walk effectively in those things it needs to do. And not just your physical self that we can touch, but also your mind, so your thought life, your mental and emotional well-being, your spiritual life, so your spirit, and being able to focus on the whole being is going to be better than just the physical body. We can exercise, but we also want to exercise our mind and our spirit. We want to shape our heart and mold our soul into the person that God wants us to be. So we need strategies for that and to build habits for that, not just for exercising the physical, but also for the inner person. And the second area of our outer life to work on would be balance. Now, we can't get everything perfect, of course, fitting everything into a perfect little box. And God did say that there's a time and season for everything. But I believe this can also apply to your day. Even though you might have this long to-do list of things, it's important to bring God into your day and to sense what He's finding important for you to work on. So maybe there wouldn't be so many work hours today because you really need to spend time with your spiritual life or working on a relationship. So all those different areas of life that are important to us, we need to be able to not tick boxes with them 1 o'clock, 2 o'clock, but to be able to have a harmony and a weaving together of them when it's purposeful to do so. It may not all be in the same day. It could be throughout the week or throughout the month, setting things in your schedule that are important. Because when you do start following your calling, you don't want to have things that are kind of lopsided and left behind, so that you're guilty if you start spending time working on your calling, or you have parts of your life that really haven't been opened up to God to work in to get where they need to be. And the third area would be building an environment to support peace and productivity. It's so important to have peace in your life as often as you can. And sometimes things get a little crazy. We want to be productive, but also be peaceful. And in Proverbs 31:27, it says she carefully watches everything in her household. Watching over everything doesn't mean that you have to do everything at one time and get overwhelmed. However, I think it also means that when you look at the big picture of everything, that you're going to not just look at your to-do list, but look at the whole foundation, the system, how you're walking in what God wants you to do. The foundations of the atmosphere of your household, as well as the support systems that you have in place to help you be effective, are important. So whether it be as simple as calendars or apps, or some type of system or tool or resource that you need, even if it's a person, an assistant to help you with certain things, personalize those particular tools and resources so that you can have the support you need in your home. Find ways to do things that are personalized to your preferences, to your energy cycles, so that you can have procedures set up and routines set up and habits set up that are going to help you to be more effective. And if you can figure this out even before you get too far down your path of purpose, it's going to help you to be able to integrate in that time for that later. And one thing you do want to do is to make sure that when you're thinking about purpose, that you bring time into your day to focus on it, to reflect on yourself, to do some assessment. It doesn't have to be every day, but once a week, a few times a month, set aside some time to think about, God, what is my purpose in life? And to really look at who you are and your design and what he's calling you to inside. And if you're not really ready for your actual calling yet, look at the vision that he's having for the specific areas of your life, like your relationships and your health and things like that. So you can really work on preparation of both your inner and outer self. So setting aside time to be intentional, to look into your purpose and start walking in it, even if it's the tiniest steps, even if it's just research, is so important in your day. And a coaching reflection that I would have for you is to think about, is there any area in your life, what area of life has the potential to hinder you finding or moving forward in the next steps of your purpose? Think about that and maybe find some strategies that you can use to work on that area of life. And if you're ready to work on your inner and your outer life and to start looking at what God is calling you to do in your person and in your life so that you can prepare to find or walk in your purpose, then I have a resource for you. I created the Purposeful Living Assessment and Reflections Guide, and this is free to you, and it's available on my website at liveinspiredbypurpose.com under Purposeful Living Assessment. And this will help you to assess the different areas of your life, where you are in those areas, your satisfaction level in those areas, and then to look at what God is calling you to do in these places and set some action steps that you can take to start to move forward, to live purposefully, to have more balance and harmony in your life, and to be more fulfilled because you're walking in God's purposes for your life. And when you start to design your inner and your outer life around God's purposes, it's really going to change everything. And so I really just encourage you to take an inventory, your inner life, your outer life, and see what God wants you to do and start moving forward in that, because it's going to really make a big difference in your life.